Hey everyone, it's Soul, and here is some more Horrific Vision commentary. For continuing our series of videos where I take a class that I'm not very familiar with and gear it up, mainly through outdoor and Horrific Vision content, and then complete a 5-chest run. Today we're in Orgrimmar, and I'm rocking an Unholy Death Knight. Of the 3 specs, I like Unholy the most. I guess I just like the class fantasy behind summoning a whole bunch of ghouls and then spreading plague and nasty stuff, and this happens to be both. His item level is 430, at least it was at the time, and he has an emphasis on haste, kind of, sort of. His Azeroth traits, talents, and essences are centered around the Magus of the Dead Azeroth traits, which spawns a skeletal mage whenever I use or I proc my Apocalypse ability, and I have 3 stacks of that trait. He's also rocking a max level Twilight Devastation, which definitely plays into my performance, probably more so than my Azeroth trait preference. His cloak level was level 9 at the time, and neck level at 75. He's using Vision of Perfection rank 2 as his main essence, and he has rank 2 Breath of the Dying, rank 1 Lucid Dreams, and rank 1 Purification Protocol. For talents, he's using All Will Serve, Bursting Sores, Asphyxiate, Harbinger of Doom, Death Pact, Epidemic, and Army of the Damned. So lots of AoE and being able to summon more minions for those times where I need to burst down something scary. He also has no buffs other than good old Ghastly Goulash, and with that, let's get started. So I did this run kind of the other day. I hope that I'm not too thrown off by like things that I'm seeing. I'm like, oh, I did that. I hope I'm not too surprised. But this Death Knight project was actually I found this one pretty fun because I was always fascinated about using the Death Knight. I just wasn't quite sure, like, okay, when is a good time that I'll actually switch to him? And, well, Horrific Visions were a time for me to do it. So I kick off with the stun. I want to very quickly try to take out that shaman, but the shaman, but I don't have a lot of bursty stuff. I don't really notice that on an Unholy Death Knight, so I open up with a stun. I did take him out pretty quick though, because I am spec'd as a solo player with my Titanic research. Maybe I should have shown you the whole tree, but oh well, too late now. But I very quickly engaged the 2 bouncers, and I'm doing like a pretty decent job. I kind of slipped up right here where I missed a stun. It was either a stun or an interrupt that I had just neglected to throw out, or maybe I was just killing it too slow. But I'm off to a fairly decent start. So I'm here once again going for the shaman, but I believe I totally missed out on getting the shockwave from the shield bearer, whatever his name is. So far though, like I said, it's kind of this starts out pretty well. In this particular run, I totally neglected to look at vials. I didn't bother looking for the colors, and I guess I was confident because I put a reasonably good amount of time at learning how to play this class before coming in here. And then, of course, with Twilight Devastation, I just do considerably well. So when I pass through these Void Walkers, I throw diseases out so I can eventually pull them over, but I beeline, as always, straight to this guy. Straight to the elite. And this is where I typically would use any of my cooldowns. So I would use that thing that makes my ghoul stronger, the Dark Transformation. This is where I pop Apocalypse on purpose. I think there wasn't really any time that I used Army of the Dead except for Rexar, which you're going to see later in this run. And I really should be making more use out of it, especially since I'm talented for the shorter cooldown. That's something that I'll probably employ more of when I do Stormwind next week, because I expect to do Stormwind on this character as well, and hope for similar results, as in successful. that's the hope here. So I engage these 2 packs at the same time, and as usual, I go for the Void Elemental first because he does that debuff that makes me take extra shadow damage from all other mobs, like those casters over there. I take him out fairly quickly, and well, luckily everyone else goes down too, thanks to a well-timed Twilight Devastation. As always, Twilight Devastation and other similar heavy corruptions, they play a big factor in my performance here. They make a good chunk of item level difference. I think by contrast, I would probably be safer being closer to a 440 item level if I didn't have these kinds of corruption abilities. But I'm still kind of doing okay. There are fewer situations like right here where Twilight Devastation, okay, it helps, but Only kind of, sort of. There are definitely going to be moments here where TD takes it home, but given the nature of it and how easily it can miss, there are situations where it's not quite as useful. Things are paying off though. Having ghouls to help with damage that I'm otherwise not throwing out properly because of either a misplaced dot or I just forget to reapply dots, or maybe I'm just not playing things right. The pets and whatnot, they really help for getting in that extra damage. And especially cases where I might be crowd controlled or stunned or anything like that, with ghouls pew-pewing away at them, all the better. So it makes it really important to have a vision of perfection. It's a really, really useful essence, and all it takes really is one heroic version of the Mechagon workshop to get that rank 1. And then you need to do a little bit of work in Mechagon itself in order to get the rank 2, but it's not a whole lot of effort at all. Definitely worth going for. So here, going for this mob, I have to be pretty careful. I didn't really talk about it, but I'm dealing with Hotfoot, and I do have pretty low sanity by this point. This is a situation where I could have and maybe should have used the kebab, especially since I hit a wave right there towards the end. So it kind of affects my timing here. So you see I have a little bit less than I have a little bit less than 1/3 sanity left. And here I opt to kind of peek my way a little bit into this next area before I finally pop my orb. Instead of trying to take too big of a risk and do a full pull, I'll just go for like this mob by itself. Because it can be a little bit trouble. Any one of these mobs can be a little bit of trouble on their own. Or sometimes you may just have a couple of bad procs. Stuff isn't hitting. As you can see, I'm getting pretty close to empty here. And at this point, I believe it's not until after this run where I can get that last trait that gives me the extra life. Here you just saw me stand out of the way of the haunting shadows, where otherwise it would have feared me for a little bit. Or in this case, it wouldn't have been so impactful. It would have just stunned me for a little bit. It wouldn't have been as bad as trying to eat a kebab and having that interrupted, and then all of a sudden I would lose the cooldown for that food. In this case, I could just move and then recast. So here I'm going for a slightly bigger pull. I opt to use Apocalypse to get some of these extra mobs. And like I said, whenever you're getting any of those bigger packs, Apocalypse definitely helps. And also, I believe I should have mentioned too that at least I got at least 1 point into the one trait that makes my ghouls explode. So having something like that along with all the other AoE that's going on, plus your Titanic research buffs, it contributes quite a bit of DPS, even if you don't happen to have something like Twilight Devastation to rely on. Because I'm still making quick work of many of these mobs, despite the item level. And now let's go for this guy. Let's go for the big guy. So there's small tricks that you can use for this. Well, I do use Asphyxiate here, but I could have used, or at least I was told that I could use AMS for that throw, so that way I can take a little bit less sanity damage. And here, in this case, it's not super impactful. But hey, if I can provide a tip, cool. But for a melee class, this guy isn't too big of a deal. One last TD finishes him off. And now we're going to go downstairs. Here's a useful thing. Let's pull the Dominator, and boom, TD to the face. That was good. I was really happy about that one. But now we'll go for the second pack. Goulash will definitely take care of me here in terms of taking the extra damage, but I opted to be a little bit safer and just wait until I take this pack out until I go for the elite. Because it did take a fairly sizable amount of damage there. I think even if I engaged all of these at once, it wouldn't have been super bad, but that's the kind of risk assessment that you got to make sometimes. So there I took a little sanity hit. I was moving a little bit slow. I blame that for me kind of jumping around. Jumping does help a little bit whenever you're trying to move in a certain direction and you don't want to accidentally curve. I tend to make a habit of that where I jump in a certain direction because I know I want to go in that certain direction. And I want to, let's say, like move my camera or do anything like that so I can maintain control of my movement. It's a little bit wordy the way I'm describing it very quickly, but it's just kind of a thing that I do. So now we're going for the area boss as melee. No problem. I do have a much bigger circle than normal since my cloak rank is pretty low. I'm running, I believe it's like 75 corruption minus 30 or so. So I still have a pretty big circle to take care of. There's the other circle for the haunting shadows that I ought to get out of. But my sanity is running a little bit low. I don't have TDs proccing. It's not looking so great for me. There, I just got hit by a sanity attack, which is definitely not good. A situation like here, I think I was panicking a little bit, and I should have been making much more use of Pandemic. Whenever there are ads coming out, just apply your diseases to all those mobs, hit Pandemic a couple of times, and hope for the best. But there's still a lot more for me to work on with this character. But it's okay. We're learning. Always learning. For now, though, the clock stopped, and I opt here to wait a little bit. I told myself, I'll go ahead and get to the door first, and then I'll go ahead and pop my orb. Unfortunately, that's when the game realizes that what I'm trying to do and decides to use the slowdown to synchronize. That's great. Thank you, video game. But I still have time. Taking on these guys, thankfully I was able to just rock this guy like very, very quickly. Just like a couple of good pandemics, and like that was it. No TD involved this time, funny enough. But now that we got through here, I'll just engage these guys from out here. And this isn't like that big of a sanity gain or a sanity savings, because you can see I kind of like move in and out, in and out. But if you can pull these guys just a little bit outside, fight them outside, then you lose slightly less sanity than you would if you cross the threshold. It's not a big deal, though. It really isn't. But hey. So by now, I think you guys should be pretty familiar with this guy. Take care of the orb by running through the boss and watch it harmlessly fly the other way, get pushed back, and repeat the process until this guy is dead. But don't be too complacent, especially with things like Scorched Feet or Hot Foot that you have to deal with. It could very easily throw you off. So always be diligent. But now that we got grown up, it's back to the usual routine. Go for the Dominator first. Interrupt the Touch of the Abyss whenever possible. Don't do what I do right there and let yourself get stunned for like pretty much the entire duration. You can see my health dipping. And yeah, don't get too cocky. And I think I did for this particular pull. I didn't have much in the ways of cooldowns. I was just kind of like trying to throw out pandemics and whatnots as much as I could. Or maybe not. Maybe I wasn't even doing that correctly here. But at least we got this pack taken care of. And then we got to take care of these barricades. And of course, when this guy comes out, tag him real quick. Make sure you have some aggro on them so that if you have pets, you can get started with beating on it. So here we go, turn around. I'll hit it really quick, go here, and then pull the Dominator. I got a Apocalypse proc, which definitely helps. But yeah, focus on the Dominator first, and then just try to bring the rest together. I believe here I actually did not focus on the named mob appropriately when I should have. And I think you'll kind of see the fruits of that misstep. It's just that you're doing a little bit less efficient DPS by targeting the mob that has a little bit more life than normal. It wastes a couple seconds, and in situations like these, you want to try not to. There are, of course, other things that I could have done here, too. I could have used the kebab. I could have used a vial if I was paying attention to that. All right, with this thing ready, I have just about everything available to me, including Army of the Dead, which I decided to not use. I mean, I'm definitely getting close to Rexar, so I'm going to save that for him. But I do move inside this guy's hitbox to avoid the Void Torrent entirely. TD goes off, it still hits him, thankfully. And that was a cool thing too. He kind of like stepped back a little bit, and a TD went off, and he got hit by that again, which was extremely fortunate for me. So this guy got melted very quickly. I'm not quite sure how I got hit by that Void Torrent again. That just kind of goes to show that once again, if even though you can move inside the hitbox, there's a chance that things might not work out in your favor. Well, let's move on to Rexar's house. But not before encountering Misha. Hello, Misha. Not too much with this one, except for that with Madden Roar. Aside from of course line of sighting, her big old AOE, I did try to AMS it and it worked. So if you can do that, or otherwise pop some sort of big immunity, go ahead and do that. So here we go. I believe I pop it right there, and ta-da, nothing happens. So go me. I get some sanity back, which is, I do have about 2/3 sanity left, which is going to be enough for me to get through over to Rexar's room by using the little shortcut-like thing, but not without taking horrendous amounts of damage, and you'll see that in just a moment. So let's go. So from the feel of it, you can definitely get through here if you have goulash. But if you don't have some sort of self heal, or if you don't have a whole lot of life, it can get a little bit dicey. So just be really careful when going through that area. But it's time for some Rexar. Here I pop my final orb. Pop ghouls, pop army, all this stuff. I believe I'll have Apocalypse going. There we go. So all the things. Everything that I've got. I mean, it's not enough things, but it's everything that I got. So in this case, I kind of bursted Rexar a little bit hard. So now he's at 50%. All the boars are out, and I didn't kill the previous ones. So this was a mistake on my part, where I should have done a little bit better of a job of controlling my DPS, or otherwise switching to the boars a little bit faster, which may or may not be a little bit difficult for a Death Knight. There's small things that I could do. There, I got hit by Shaw. There are small things that I can do, like maybe using Epidemic to get some more damage on each of the boars. That's still a lot of damage that I would be taking altogether. Sanity damage I would be taking, that is. Even still, I was able to take out Rexar without too much trouble. I have plenty of sanity left, and now I just need to clear out this pack of mobs to get to the totem. So that pretty much wraps up the hardest part of the vision. But as always, and I can't stress this enough, don't be complacent. Even though we're at the home stretch, there are plenty of mistakes that can happen here that could ruin what has so far been a pretty successful run. But now here we go. We have 3-4 sanity available, it looks like. The clock has stopped as I'm going through, and now it's time to engage. Nice jump. So I have no army, but I do have the other. I do have pretty much everything else available. So I target a boar first, and here we go. I should have instead of running in there, I should have death gripped one of the boars that was casting Void Quills. That would have been a pretty effective interrupt, and it would have saved a little bit of damage, but hardly a big deal. I think if I'm going to attempt mask runs on this character, those are the kinds of things that I'll definitely be looking out for. Apart from, of course, getting a lot more gear, too. 430 it does... I wasn't exactly pushing it here. This did feel a little bit easier than I thought it would be. So here we go. He's a little bit over half life. And there isn't much that I can do about Cries of the Void. I really don't feel like I have like a great burst on this character. TD would have saved me, but it didn't proc at the time. So with a slower fight, you just want to make sure that whenever he does his big shockwave, one, you need to get out of the way of it, but two, you want to try and draw it in such a way that you're not running out of too much space. You can see that there are a couple of defiled ground moves that just kind of cut through the middle, and that can prove troublesome in a longer fight. Which, depending on your gear, it may or may not be a longer fight. But I'm able to get through. Not bad. So in hindsight, doing this as an Unholy Death Knight, it might not have been like the most efficient way to go about it. I think, especially with TD, it would have been faster for me to do this as Blood. But I wanted to test myself or challenge myself with using a DPS character that I'm just not very familiar with. And so I took like about a week or so to kind of familiarize myself as I was gearing up. I had some help from stream, so a big shout out to you folks over there that were doing a lot of course correcting with me. So now I have enough items to upgrade my cloak to rank 10, I believe. And what did I get? I got gloves that give me a level 1 tentacle, which isn't bad. It's not great. It's something that I can play with, just a little bit more single target damage or a little bit more guaranteed damage. Something that might even help me out for Alaria. Because TD is not going to be as useful of a trait for a fight in Alaria as some others. So I'm gonna have to play with the gear and see what will help me out there. So that way, if I'm fighting Alaria and she's out of range, I can still have, let's say, a tentacle going after her or something else, in case TD just happens to miss. So that's going to be it for me, guys. I hope that this was useful. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, please leave one down below. And otherwise, we'll see you for the next one. It's Stormwind next week, so you might see a short series of videos of me trying this on multiple characters. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you for the next thing that I do. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.